Police chiefs are insisting a unit set up to deal with rampant shoplifting is working after a migrant who stole £60,000 worth of goods from Boots was jailed. Operation Opal, as it has been named, has identified 152 people who are persistently shoplifting. But police forces are still under fire over a lack of enforcement against widespread petty crime, potentially due to action coming so late in the day. The centralised team of officers collect and analyse CCTV footage and other evidence from all forces in England and Wales to track serial offenders. This has led to success in catching a Romanian migrant who had only arrived in the UK last year and within that 12 months had stolen £60,000 worth of gear from Boots. 25-year-old Alexandru-Iulian Dima was jailed for 4 years after pleading guilty to 32 shoplifting offences. Home Office officials are attempting to secure a deportation order to get him sent back to Romania. Dima was tracked down by the team who had identified patterns to his thieving, and South Wales Police mounted a sting operation. Staff at a local Boots store alerted cops Dima had entered their shop. The thief tried to make a break for it, but officers arrested him in a nearby car park. Shoplifting has soared in the UK after cops stopped routinely attending calls, and prosecutions for stealing below a certain value were ceased during the pandemic. In the year to March, more than 100,000 extra shoplifting offences were recorded compared to the year before. PC Liam Noyce said, "We looked at intel around his offending and chose the day we believed he'd come to town. Lo and behold, we had the call from staff at Boots and we arrested him, bringing an end to the campaign of crime committed in towns and cities the length and breadth of the UK. We understand how vital retailers, both large and small, are to the town and are determined and committed to ensure they are protected from criminality." Stephanie Coombs, head of intelligence at Opal, added, "Opal has been carrying out this role for other crime types for a number of years, and we have seen significant successes from having a national overview of what's happening in the organised crime world." It emerged earlier this year that an operation between police and retailers had revealed that a quarter of all shoplifting is being carried out by criminal gangs. A task force used facial recognition software to discover that this wave of shoplifting is being spearheaded by just 12 gangs. ONS figures have Britain's shoplifting epidemic at its highest figure since records began in 2003. GB News spoke with former DCI Mike Neville about this epidemic when these figures were revealed before the election.
The thieving and whatever else is going on everywhere, but the shoplifting in particular has become more and more organised, more and more gangs. And the ridiculous thing, of course, is that the vast majority of these offences are recorded on CCTV, high-quality CCTV, and the police do not have the means to do anything about it. And if anybody's listening, I'm working with a professor on building a database that will match all these people, because I had the world record of matching a shoplifter to 43 different crimes. And if you match an offender to 43 crimes, it means they go to jail. And that's what needs to happen. The government have done away with 1-year sentences. They made shoplifting under £200 a sort of summary-only magistrates' court offence. And, of course, the criminals know this, so they're targeting £199.95. And they know that if there's the 1% chance of getting caught, they won't go to jail and they'll carry on shoplifting. And that's why it keeps increasing.
Mike, I spent some time in San Francisco late last year, and it's really starting to feel like that over here, where they decriminalised shoplifting under, I think it was $900, and the consequence of that is just a crime-ridden hellhole. Why, if we have so much CCTV of perpetrators in these cases, are cops not turning up and nicking these people?
Well, what you're going to have is the police have got, firstly, the officer who turns up, they've got no equipment to download the CCTV. There's millions of different systems. Secondly, unlike fingerprints and DNA, there's no national database of images. So if you go shoplifting in, Bolton, Burnley, Liverpool, they all sound very close, but they're all three different forces, so the images aren't shared. And very few police forces have any system of managing these images. So if they'll put a picture of a thief up and say, do you know this person? The following week, that image is lost. And I've been advising police forces on this, but of course, there's too many police forces too bothered about rainbow cars and woke karate and not arresting criminals, and that's got to change.
The thing is, Mike, all these wrong-uns are wearing masks on their faces now. Anyway, we've completely normalised the use of covering up your face. So you've got a teenager with a hoodie and a massive black mask on. No one's going to tell him to take it off. He's going to say he's scared of COVID. So we've got a completely messed up system. It just doesn't work. You can have as many CCTV cameras as you want, but it's not going to get the wrongers behind bars.
Well, I disagree, Beth, because I had the Human Super Recognised Unit and worked with Professor Josh Davis from Greenwich University. We actually did tests on this, and humans can pick people out by their eyes. And I had several convictions on that. So the police could do more if we got the images, which they often don't do. So get the images, get them identified, get them arrested and put them in jail, because that's what criminals understand. I know it's basic stuff and people will call me a dinosaur, but maybe I'm an arrestosaurus, because that's what needs to be done. More arrests need to be made.
OK, Mike, Arrestosaurus, what do you think about... I mean, I sound like a broken record, actually, because every time we talk about crime, I always go back to Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, the broken window theory, where if you tackle the very low-level crime, the yobs, the shoplifting, and, the louts on the streets, then that, in turn, will sort out the more serious crime.
You're absolutely right, because if you look at shoplifting, what happens there is that sort of drug addicts, they think, well, I'm entitled to steal this now. And if anybody challenges them, like the shopkeeper or a security guard, it turns into violence. And therefore, what should be like a low-level crime then turns into a really nasty, violent crime. And what the government have allowed is this criminality to creep through.
Things had gotten so bad, M&S felt it had to launch a private prosecution to tackle a prolific shoplifter, hiring private police to carry out the arrest. Tom Harwood asked why enforcing the law seemed so hard for the police to do themselves.
All they did was look at the CCTV, saw this person was a repeat offender, and when he turned up again, arrest him. Why is that so hard for the police to do?
Well, I think, first of all, it's got to be said that anyone can take out a private prosecution if they want. The CPS can railroad it and take it over. That's their call. But this one clearly succeeded, prolific offender. He went to prison for 12 months, quite a long time, really. And your question is a very valid one. The public is sitting back and saying, well, wait a minute, the man was caught. Why is it a private prosecution, which the store, Marks and Spencer's, I believe, will have to pay for? That can't be right. But the police, on the other hand, will say we've got so many commitments, we can't keep on called out to shoplifters. But this was not a shoplifter. It was burglary. He entered property as a trespasser. He broke in and stole. And it was luxury goods. It was, what was it? Prosecco and T-bone steaks. It was £500 worth. So that doesn't strike me as someone on the breadline. Admittedly, he might have gone in there to sell it. I don't know the person's background, but very often that there is a drug connection with it. But that having been said, you expect the police to turn up, and if someone's been caught, to do something about it. So I urge them to reconsider their stance on this, because frankly, it looks utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, and it also causes an intimidatory atmosphere for just general, normal people trying to go for their shop. I mean, many of us will have experiences of essentially just watching people shoplift and nothing happening at all. But Hamish, may I ask you, just because I have no idea, and I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners don't either, private prosecutors, these private companies, do they work totally separately from the police? Or do they work hand in hand sometimes? Do the police mind these private prosecutors coming in and arresting people?
Well, there's always been private prosecution. There's always been security people, notably on the fraud side, certainly. And I remember as a young PC going to court, the shoplifting cases were presented by private solicitors and barristers, and the police officer was called to give any previous convictions the defendant might have. So this isn't new, but there's a cost to people, and that has got to be wrong. And I echo your concerns about feeling intimidated, frightened, when this is happening around you in a shop, because you don't know if you should intervene. I would say don't. Leave it to the appropriate security people. And there's also, this is why people might jump in, a sense of unfairness. People work hard, pay their taxes, and go to a supermarket and pay their money. That's how it works, or should work. And this can't be right. And as I said earlier, very often, not in all cases, but very often the goods are stolen to sell on, and there's a drug connection. So even more reason the police should get involved. They should go to court. And if it's necessary to have community orders with drug rehabilitation requirements and all the other things, so be it. But no action is not acceptable.
Nicholas Dunning, GB News.